There's a new paradigm of business, one that is centered in health, values, regenerative models for land and enterprises, one based in equity, justice, and an evolution of business. Welcome to Franny's Farm and our mission to donate our land into a nonprofit that can continue to impact, shape, expand, and evolve what regenerative can really mean for land and business.
Today we want to talk to you about the unsustainable practices of our current food system and the opportunity to invest in a regenerative alternative. Our current food system relies heavily on industrial agriculture, which is responsible for significant environmental damage, including soil degradation, loss of biodiversity, and pollution. Additionally, the centralized nature of our food system makes it vulnerable to disruptions and shocks such as pandemics, extreme weather events, and political instability. But what if we could have a food system that regenerates the environment, strengthens local communities, and ensures food security for all? This is where Franny's Farm Agrarian Trust comes in.
In 2012, we bought 18 acres of undeveloped land right outside of Asheville, North Carolina. There was a vision, but no power, well, buildings, roads, not even a fence post. Today, we have an event barn, farmhouse, 5 eco cabins, 3 barns, chicken processing equipment, and a host of gardens from pollinator and bee gardens to vegetables, herbs, flowers, trees, and more. In the past decade, we've welcomed over 80,000 visitors to Franny's Farm to lodge, celebrate in weddings, participate in farm workshops, education, camp, and programming, attend food festivals such as Heritage Fire Festival and Blind Pig events. Also, to participate in goat yoga, which we were one of the founders over 5 years ago. Now, and for the future, it's time for Franny's Farm to evolve.
The Franny's Farm Agrarian Trust is an innovative model of land ownership that combines community ownership with regenerative agriculture. By placing the land into a trust, we can ensure that it is used for sustainable agriculture practices, supports local businesses, and strengthens the surrounding community. At Franny's Farm, we have already been moving in this direction by working with the Utopian Seed Project. The Utopian Seed Project is a 501c3 nonprofit that conducts regional crop and variety trials at their experimental farm sites, including here at Franny's Farm. They use hands-in-the-earth work as a platform to inspire, educate, and celebrate diversity in food and farming through their Crop Stories outreach. Here's more from Chris Smith, the Executive Director of the Utopian Seed Project.
Hi, my name's Chris Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of the Utopian Seed Project. Welcome to Franny's Farm and my small strip of it, which we call the Experimental Farm. This is where we do a majority of our growing, although we do work with a network of farmers, and also a lot of my board members are also actively participating in our trials. Just very quickly, we have like 3 focus areas that I want to tell you about. We have exploring and preserving varietal diversity in traditional southern crops. So that's things like the hundreds of okra varieties that we've grown, hundreds of sweet potatoes and collards and southern peas, and lots of exciting traditional southern crops. We also have this whole area where we're trying to grow tropical perennials as temperate annuals. So that's things like taro and yacon and these wonderful, often root crops that will grow as perennials in tropical regions. But here we're trying to grow them as temperate annuals and then carry over some form of plant genetics, usually a rhizome or a tuber or something like that, to grow again the next spring. So that's a pretty awesome and exciting area because 1, it's increasing food diversity and food security in this region, and 2, we have this little thing called climate change, which is forcing the whole climate to warm up, and so we're kind of hedging our bets that we're going to need to be growing slightly different crops in the future, and we're preparing for that. And then the third focus area are kind of underutilized, sometimes wild edibles, things like the American groundnut. We've got 43 different cultivars of improved American groundnut in the ground right now, actually, and pawpaws and Chinese artichoke and skirrets and some of these other fun, often perennial crops that can be grown in this region as true perennials. And so that's 3 different areas that is really going to help elevate and diversify our food supply and hopefully make it way more fun to grow and eat in this region. We don't need to be relying on a few minority or, well, majority crops that are grown in monoculture type systems, we can really grow a whole bunch of different interesting things. We're very lucky to be in this region where there's such diversity on offer.
Through Franny's Farm Agrarian Trust, we can expand these efforts and create a community-driven food system that benefits everyone. The destructive and unsustainable practices of our current food system are undeniable. Our dependence on the power grid, a supply chain that is dependent on food coming from 1,500 miles away, handled by 6 to 7 people and 4 to 5 vehicles, leaves us vulnerable to natural disasters, foreign invasions, and warfare. But we can change this. All paths to lasting freedom must include a decentralized, regenerative, and local food supply. So what can you do to be involved? You can invest in Franny's Farm Agrarian Trust and become a part of a movement towards a more sustainable and regenerative future for all.
By investing to move Franny's Farm into a nonprofit agrarian trust, you'll be supporting businesses like Utopian Seed Project, Asheville Wellness Tours, Goat Yoga Asheville, Freedom Farm Academy, homeschool associations, elderflower community, herbalists that are growing and creating their own tea line right here on Franny's Farm, and so many more businesses to come in the future. Thank you for your time, energy, and efforts. Let's make the world a better place and start with a farm right here outside of Asheville.